Hey, what's up, guys? This is going to be a review of WrestleMania 19. I've never talked about this show, and someone actually sent me a message and he asked me, can you please review WrestleMania 19? And I thought about it, and I said, why not? It's WrestleMania season. If I don't review it now, I'm probably never going to end up reviewing it. So why not? It is the greatest WrestleMania of all time, in my opinion. It's very, very close, though. I think WrestleMania 17 and 19 pretty much, flip a coin. It could go either way. That's just my opinion, but I do have some problems with the show, even though I do love it. It's just, I feel like it could have been even better. I really feel like it could have. It's just, too many guys, and don't get me wrong, it made for an awesome WrestleMania, but I just kind of feel bad for a lot of the guys that were on the road busting their ass at the time. Like Rob Van Dam got bumped from the show. You got, some of the guys on SmackDown like Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Chris Benoit, Shelton Benjamin, those guys kind of got, screwed. They were in these, bullshit filler matches. While, you got guys like Hulk Hogan, Mr. McMahon, Rock and Austin, Shawn Michaels. They really weren't, full-time wrestlers at the time. They really weren't on the grind, and they still got, that WrestleMania payday. So some of it kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth, but you can't knock it. The WWE, financially, they weren't doing that well at the time. I think this is one of the, as far as the buy rates go, I don't think it was particularly that good. So, a lot of, they tried to make as much money as they could. So you can't really knock them for that. But, yeah, man, let's just get right down to it. Seattle, Safeco Field, WrestleMania 19. It's, this is pretty much the most talented the WWE roster ever was in between SummerSlam 2002 through WrestleMania 19. I thought the WWE was clicking on all cylinders at this time. I was like obsessed with WWE, particularly at that time. So just a lot of great things to talk about on the show. So let's get right down to it. We have Matt Hardy versus Rey Mysterio. These guys opened up the show with the Cruiserweight title match. It was very, very entertaining, even though it was extremely short. But one of those matches you can watch over and over again. Matt Hardy, as the Cruiserweight champion in 2003, was the man. It's such a shame to see where Matt Hardy, how he faded, man. I don't know what it was, but, that one year when he was running with the Matitude gimmick, whatever they were doing and whatever he was doing, it just totally worked. I think it was probably Lita's return that kind of, killed his momentum, because then he went over to Raw. Things were really never quite the same for Matt Hardy. But, yeah, man, him and Rey Mysterio, they pretty much tore it up for like 5 minutes. Probably one of the best WrestleMania openers ever, just for sheer entertainment value. But, Mysterio was wearing the Daredevil costume. So there we go with that. Really, really hot opener. Next up, we had Undertaker and Nathan Jones taking on the Big Show and A-Train. This was kind of weird because Nathan Jones, a lot of you guys know, I'm not sure if even you guys might remember. He's from Australia. He was in prison. He was a convict. He had a great look. Problem is the guy just sucked in the ring. They rehearsed the match. This is according to the wrestling rumors, spoilers. I used to be on the wrestling websites all the time back in 2003. After school was over, I would just wait for basketball practice just by looking at the wrestling dirt sheets. So I could pretty much remember everything from that time. But yeah, Nathan Jones, man, the dude could not remember anything like that they rehearsed. Like, he just couldn't get it right. He was just so bad. And so Taker just went 1-on-2 handicap match. And for what it was, I thought it was great, because I thought Taker at this time was probably the best he ever was, as far as his conditioning goes and in the ring. I would say 2003 and 2007 were probably Taker's best years as far as, mobility and just getting it done in the ring. Was definitely, I remember a couple of interviews where he talked about he felt a lot of pressure to keep up with, guys like Angle, Benoit, Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin, because the athleticism was just, reaching an all-time high on SmackDown and in the WWE. So he really, but after Hell in a Cell and when he came back at the Rumble, you could definitely tell he got himself into really, really good shape. I just feel like Taker was kind of wasted on the show. I really feel like, you could have done something with the streak. The problem is you just had so much star power in the main event scene. It's kind of like, what were you going to do with Taker? It's just I just kind of feel like he was wasted on the show. And this is pretty much the last WrestleMania where Taker was kind of treated like that. Every other WrestleMania after this, it was pretty much, his match was pretty much a big deal. The streak became an even bigger deal after the show. Next up we have Victoria, Trish Stratus, and Jazz, the Triple Threat Women's match. what can I say? This is one of the best women's matches WWE ever produced. Trish looked so hot that the fans were really on her side. This was just a lot of fun. Definitely superior to the triple threat match of WrestleMania 18. Trish actually won the title, got a great reaction. Everything just flowed really nicely here. This is definitely probably the best women's match I've ever seen in the WWE on a pay-per-view, at least. I'll definitely say that. So yeah, really good stuff. Next up, we had the triple threat tag team title match. We had Team Angle, which was Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin at the time, taking on the Guerreros, taking on Chris Benoit and Rhyno. And I have a lot of mixed feelings about this match. Obviously, like I said, you got these guys busting their ass, putting on amazing matches on SmackDown every week, and then they kind of, get lost in the shuffle at WrestleMania. It just ended up being a filler match. And the teams really just didn't, the Chris Benoit and Rhyno dynamic didn't really work for me. I just felt like they threw them together just because Rhyno came back off the neck surgery. Really, I felt like you could have done Benoit and Eddie. Maybe you could have scrapped the match at Armageddon and built up to a Benoit-Eddie match. Or maybe if Edge was healthy, maybe you could have had Benoit take on Edge, or maybe Edge and Rey Mysterio taking on Team Angle for the tag team titles. See, I really feel like Edge being injured really hurt these guys. I feel like they could have really done something special here. The triple threat tag matches, the four-way tag matches that they did at WrestleMania 20, they really don't work, and that's kind of the reason why Jericho thought of the Money in the Bank, because you could just tell he didn't want to be stuck in one of these bullshit filler matches. So that's what happened there. But yeah, the match was good though. Don't get me wrong. It just didn't get enough time. The only time the crowd really woke up for it was when Rhyno hit the gore. But other than that, man, you got these guys were just at the top of their games, and they just were kind of wasted. So that's what it was. Next up, we had Shawn Michaels taking on Chris Jericho. Shawn Michaels returned to WrestleMania, and him and Jericho had that awesome feud about Jericho wanting to be like Shawn Michaels, and then eventually Shawn was retired at home making babies, and then Jericho eclipsed him, became the first ever undisputed champion. So they had some really good promos going into this match. These guys tore it up. Probably the match of the night. Now I'm kind of it's kind of torn for me. I really love the Angle Lesnar match. So it's pretty much, you could go either way about what was the match of the night. It's pretty much right down the middle. But most people would say Jericho and Michaels stole the show. Definitely the only time Jericho was pretty much satisfied with his WrestleMania performance was definitely the WrestleMania match that he was looking for. Because Jericho always wanted to steal the show at WrestleMania, like Ricky Steamboat, his idol growing up. So, and yeah, man, these guys just a wrestling clinic. It was definitely Shawn Michaels. A good confidence booster for Shawn, because I remember Shawn at the time, he talked about on Bite This that he wasn't really that confident at first. That's why he wanted to wrestle in Elimination Chamber, the 2 out of 3 falls, the ladder match, the street fight. He really felt like he couldn't really get it done in the ring without using weapons, at first. So this is a huge confidence booster, because it was kind of like his first, straight up one-on-one wrestling type of match. So it was great for Shawn, and after the match was over, he said, "Let's stop beating around the bush. I could definitely still go." So and Shawn, I believe at the time Shawn was thinking about just teaming up with Nash and just wrestling in some bullshit tag match. So and look what happened. And that was supposed to be his last match. So Shawn's return really got jump started after that. So there we go. Next we had the Miller Lite Catfight Girls segment. They were, at the time, the WWE divas were probably at their hottest. You had Tori Wilson, Stacy Keibler, Trish. So it was good to get them on the show. I mean, if you have, a lot of people wanted to see the divas at the time. So I totally understandable. And you had Tori and Stacy mixed up with the Catfight Girls. It was okay. The coach got involved. I know Edge and Lance Storm wrote columns about how they felt bad for RVD and Sean Morley and the Dudleys. And William Regal, because they got booted off of the show and they were on Sunday Night Heat. But I don't know. I don't think that match had a lot of appeal. Yeah, obviously Rob Van Dam missing WrestleMania 19 while he was one of the hottest superstars in the company definitely put a bad taste in your mouth, and you could definitely tell after the show was the decline of RVD. I feel like RVD needs to be highly motivated, and the only way to keep him motivated is to push him. So I think that's one of the problems right there. And a lot of people wanted to see RVD versus Shawn in a ladder match at WrestleMania. That didn't happen. I can't really blame them for going with Jericho. I thought Jericho was, in 2003, he was at his best, in my opinion, on the mic. So I was a huge Jericho fan at the time, so I had no problems with it. But I particularly remember Shawn being upset, not upset, but kind of against working with RVD because he really didn't like his style. Thought he really was having a tough time adapting to the WWE style. So that's one thing right there. But at the same time, I don't think Shawn really wanted to be in the ring with RVD in a main event type of thing because, for as good as Shawn is, he's not RVD, and for as good as RVD is, he's not as good as Shawn. So maybe Shawn was kind of insecure about getting shown up by Rob because Rob is such a dynamic athlete, even though he's probably not a better athlete than Shawn, if that makes any sense. But that's my take on that. But it is what it is, and let's just move on to the world title match. We had Triple H versus Booker T for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, this is a pretty interesting storyline, and this is where the racism rumors about Triple H came about. A lot of people started to insinuate that he might actually be a racist because he did, pull a lot of shots at Booker T. He gave him $1 when they were in the bathroom, and he said this World Heavyweight Championship is reserved for people like me, not like you. So there was a lot of subliminal racial shots in the storyline, which you got to give Booker T, credit for being a team player and going with it. A lot of people wanted to see Booker T win the match. Triple H he just came off of that awful feud with Scott Steiner. And, for as bad as Steiner was, Triple H took a lot of the blame as well, unfortunately. So a lot of people were really down on Triple H, wanted to see him lose the belt. The Stephanie McMahon rumors were coming out about them, finally being a legit couple. So there was a lot of heat on Triple H at the time, definitely. But these two guys, they had a good match. The crowd really wasn't that hot. It was more of a great old school, technical wrestling match. Flair was at ringside. I thought Flair played a great heel. JR's commentary was awesome. Jerry the King Lawler was very anti-Booker T. Also doing the racial thing with saying Booker T, probably pays for everything in cigarettes. So there was a lot of that going on. But I enjoyed the match, though. Triple H pulled out the Indian Deathlock, really, damaged Booker's legs, took his legs out, hit him with the pedigree. There was a lot of dead air, and then Triple H just pinned him. Everyone was pissed off. But I definitely do think the match had a lot of. I definitely think it was a roller coaster type of match because Booker hit the Hart. What was that finisher that he used to do? The what was it? The Harlem. I forget what it was. The flip off the top rope. I forget what he called it. But after that was a great near fall, and they really I don't know. I just thought this was really really solid. It wasn't as crazy as some people were probably hoping for, but just really, really good stuff. And then after the match was over, people were just pissed. A lot of people were expecting Booker T to win, and I believe he was actually supposed to win. But I think it was Goldberg. The Goldberg's arrival kind of set things back because Nash was coming back as well. So they figured when you got all these main event guys coming back, they should really keep the title on Triple H so he could work with those guys. So I guess that was the mindset, which kind of makes sense. But I definitely think that this was the right time to give it to Booker T, and it definitely kind of hurt his career, in my opinion. It definitely kind of, it set him back a couple of years, and he didn't win the belt until 2006. So, yeah. All right, next up we have the street fight. We have Hulk Hogan versus Vince McMahon. And, I thought this was really well put together. A lot of people did want to see this match. Even looking back in retrospect, a lot of people are kind of negative on it because it is like it was the spectacle highlight of the show, and it did kind of bump a lot of stuff that could have been even better off the show. But still, it was pretty cool. The two guys that made WrestleMania what it is going at it. I got to give Vince McMahon credit. This is probably Vince's best match ever. Vince has been in a lot of crazy street fights with Shane McMahon and Austin, but I definitely think this is probably his best performance. His facial expressions, his bumps, the blade job, Hogan's comeback was awesome. Piper's just very creative booking. This match had no business being 4 stars, but it was a 4-star match. I love the Piper spot where he came out of nowhere. That was definitely a shocking WrestleMania moment, and one that doesn't really get talked about enough. And it definitely made a lot of sense given the history of Piper and Hogan. But yeah, definitely good stuff. I think Hogan leg dropped Vince like 3 times to win the match. All right, next up we have Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock, Part 3. Yeah, the storyline here should have been even better in my opinion. They really should have. I think it would have been better if Austin was the heel and Rock was the babyface. But don't get me wrong. The Rock in 2003 as a heel is the best work The Rock has ever done by far, in my opinion. Because he was just, acting like himself. I remember on Bite This, he did an interview when he came back. He said, I'm so glad I could be a heel because now I could just be myself. And it kind of, I think it kind of reveals the fact that, a lot of the stuff he was doing wasn't really scripted. He was just having fun out there. You could just tell he was just having the time of his life. I mean, the only reason he came back was to work with Goldberg. He really wanted to work with Goldberg at WrestleMania, but, Goldberg didn't sign a contract until later. So there wasn't enough time to build it up. But, yeah, he really cherished the opportunity to work with Austin again. He needed that big WrestleMania win to set up the Backlash match, so that's what it was. But this whole thing with Austin and The Rock at WrestleMania, I felt like it could have been even better, the actual storyline. Because, the C's were planned so nicely for such a shoot-style feud with, Rock. Austin was pissed when The Rock called him out and said, you could take your ball and go home. But for this, The Rock is home. Because Austin walked out of the company, Rock took some shots at him. If that was, a lot of that stuff was probably written by Vince McMahon, but still, I felt like you could have done, like The Rock really could have called Austin out for being a coward in the storyline, for being a pussy by walking out of the company. I thought they could have went in that direction, but yeah, Austin was having a tough time. I thought he was kind of stale when he came back. Really wasn't at his best on the mic. There wasn't really a lot of creative stuff for him to do other than the Bischoff stuff. But yeah, and in this match he was hurt. He was going through some neck problems. He almost had a heart attack the day before WrestleMania. So it was just about getting through the match. And I'll give these guys credit though, man. It was extremely fun. I'm not going to say it's better than WrestleMania 17. The WrestleMania 17 match is 5 stars. It's one of the best roller coaster matches I've ever seen. So it doesn't come close to that for me. But it's a lot of fun, though. There was a lot of, vicious rock bottoms where, Austin kept kicking out. There was a point where you thought Austin was just never going to give up. The Rock was highly entertaining out there. He just showed so much charisma, and the fans just couldn't help but cheer him, man. It was just awesome stuff. It was more of an entertaining match than a wrestling match. It just really was. The WrestleMania 17 match was more drama, more technicality, more everything. This was just let Rock Austin go out there, do their normal house show stuff, and it's still going to be a lot of fun. That's pretty much all it was. So next up, oh man, we have Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. A great match, one of the best WrestleMania matches of all time. But when you look at this match, there's still so much negativity about it. With Angle's injury, with Brock's fucked up shooting star press, the aftermath with both guys going to the hospital. It's kind of a sad story, but it was something I was dying to see. Ever since Brock won the King of the Ring, I was like, holy shit. I didn't even think about it. Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar. How awesome would that be? So it's just a shame because they never really touched when they were both healthy. I really wish they could have locked up a little bit earlier. At this time, it was kind of stale because Lesnar was getting stale as a babyface, and the fans were really behind Angle because of the neck thing. So the babyface heel dynamic really didn't work. And going into the match, they did some really crappy things on SmackDown because Angle was going to opt out and get the neck surgery, the fusion surgery, which would have kept him out for a year. So they did the squash match on SmackDown with Angle actually, schoolboying Brock to get the victory. Because they already booked the match because Brock was supposed to beat Angle. And then Brock was probably going to defend the title against Benoit at WrestleMania. That was the rumor. I'm not so sure how true it is, but that's what was probably going to happen. But yeah, man. I mean, it's just I just think if these two guys locked horns, maybe at Survivor Series or SummerSlam, would have been a lot better. Both guys were just shot after the match. It was just that's what it was. Angle actually, for some of you guys that might not remember, Angle actually found a doctor in Pittsburgh that would do the minimally invasive neck surgery where they wouldn't have to fuse the neck. So he was only out for 2 months. So Angle still dropped the title to Brock, took 2 months off. But as far as the actual match goes, it was awesome. I know Angle complained about there being a lot of time restrictions, and Brock kind of tried to rush through things. He tried to get Lesnar to kind of calm down and relax. So they had that going on, but they started off the match with just some great mat wrestling. They definitely just went hard, and you could definitely it was just a work of art to see these two amateur wrestlers going out there and just putting on a great wrestling match. that's I've always felt like if you're a great amateur wrestler, the transition to pro should be very very easy, and it is. I felt like if you have the amateur background, it definitely helps a lot. Um, and it's kind of the opposite of MMA, because I think if you do have just the MMA background without the amateur background, like a guy like Ken Shamrock, I don't think the transition is as smooth. That's just my opinion about that. But yeah, man. I mean, they definitely brought it, man. They just some vicious things going on here. I definitely thought it was an awesome, awesome match. Brock's, in some ways, Brock's shooting star press kind of made the match a little bit better. It wasn't like he totally botched it. It looked like he kind of hit Angle, just barely, and Angle kind of, moved because of the hit. So it didn't totally come off as bad as probably they thought it would. It did come off, but yeah, Brock actually, beat Kurt with the F5. He F5'd him like a couple of times before he won the actual match, and just really really good stuff. Just probably one of my favorite WrestleMania main events. It could have been better because of the injury problems, but still, the injury thing kind of makes the match more special if you think about it, because both guys had to suck it up and get through it, and they still got the job done. So yeah, and this was kind of the beginning of the end for both guys, in my opinion. Because Brock, he went on this babyface tear, which was good, but I felt like both guys never really figured out where they wanted to go as far as being a babyface or being a heel. And when Angle came back as a face, I don't think that was a good decision. I think they probably should have kept Brock face, and Angle should have, when he came back, he should have came back as a heel. I think that would have been the best way to go. But both guys, just too much injury, especially Kurt Angle, just too much injury problems, and led to the downfall. These guys should have dominated the WWE for the next 10 years, but that did not happen. So kind of a bittersweet ending to a great WrestleMania if you think about it for the long term, but definitely an awesome, awesome wrestling show. Even one of the shows that Bret Hart even praised when he was so negative about the WWE. He said, if it seems like the WWE has finally gone back to putting on great wrestling shows. So that's pretty much it. That was WrestleMania 19. Probably went on a little bit too long, but there it is. So take it easy.